Okay.
Good morning. We're streaming.
Online.
Good morning to Carol. Who else do we know is watching Bible study? I'm not sure. Somebody is. Guess I'll give you this. Here you go. All right, everybody, good morning. Nice to see you all. Thanks for being here on this cold day. I know it's a little harder to get yourself going and step out the door. Have I told you my observation about church attendance and weather? It's down when there's really bad weather or really good weather. We want moderate weather. But I think the cold does sometimes make people want to sleep in, which you'd think it wouldn't matter because you're in your house, which is climate controlled, but I don't know. Perhaps the roads have to do with it as well. But we got a pretty good attendance for Bible study, for being the beginning of Bible study. Before we start, what's the coldest temperature somebody saw in their car? In their -3? Where was that? By Chattaroy? Wow. On Highway 2? And what was it at your house? It dropped from 16 to -3 down into Chattaroy. Is that because it's in a little valley? Because of the Little Spokane River? Oh. Yeah, interesting. Anybody beat -3? Yeah. Really? Wow. 4 degrees warmer downtown. That's amazing. Such a neat region to live in compared to, let's say, Tennessee, which, you'll drive 100 miles and it's not going to change temperature sometimes, on a humid day. It's what? All they have is good weather there. Yeah. Oh, humid, right, yeah. Okay, good. Well, we're back to our Bible study on sharing your faith over the holidays, meant to be more of a discussion. Do we have any volunteers to do Now, Chris Dreisbach last time innovated this poll. We need to practice trying to get most of our answers recorded for when we do the Bible Basics class starting in January, because we want that to be something that has staying power that can be used for years and years later whenever someone has to make up a Bible Basics lesson. Oh, and Jake, did someone tell you about sorry, yeah, I thought you might want to look at Kelly's heating. It's apparently sounds bad. It's got a lot of ice. I don't know. You'll have to talk to Chris. He's the one who, Donna and Chris woke him up last night or something. So. You want to do the roving microphone thing again? Yeah, I think so. We should perfect this. I'm thinking one guy with a handheld, one guy. So yeah, one with a handheld, one with a roaming. All right. So we begin with our opening question. You're familiar with the term Christmas and Easter Christians. What is it about these two holidays that will lead some people to attend church services these two holidays even when they don't attend the rest of the year? Why do some people come just for Christmas and Easter? You'd kind of think either don't come at all, or come a little more often, but some people have it in their mind. Why these two holidays? Why not just randomly 2 times a year? Why is it that people feel that they're going to come these 2 days and sometimes just these 2 days? Any thoughts?
If it's not for the two big happenings, the birth and the death of Christ or his rising, then it's family reunion.
Okay, yeah. So it could be for theological reasons, thinking, well, these are the biggest days or the most important. And for some, it is just, well, your family's going, and so you go along. Good, yeah.
Some people, it's just, that's what they need. They think, what do I need out of church? What do I need from God? Well, if I just go on those two, I'm good. That's all I needed.
Okay, so they just feel that's meeting their needs. All right. Anything else? Well, good. I mean, those are probably the main reasons, and I'm glad you brought up. One reason might be, well, their family's going. And if you have an opportunity that you got family in town or whatever, always make an effort to get them to come along with you, I think, is part of our Bible study we'll look at here. As long as you're there, they're there. Maybe they wouldn't normally come. Let's say they're visiting you in July, and you said, hey, let's go to church on Sunday. Maybe they'd have no interest in that. But they visit you on Sunday, or on Christmas, and maybe there's more of an appeal for some reason. Now, what's that? Oh, wasn't a comment to, okay. So, we have one more passage from last time looking at lifestyle evangelism, and then we will shift gears a little bit. So let's go to Acts chapter 4 and then Acts chapter 5. Acts chapter 4 and 5 talk about the early church and the culture that they had, and mentions a little bit how this was so appealing to their neighbors. So let's go ahead and read Acts chapter 4, verses 32 to 37. Lance?
All the believers were in one heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord, Jesus. And God's grace was so powerful at work in them that there were no needy persons among them. For from time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone who had need. Joseph, a Levite from Cyprus, whom the apostles called Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, sold a field he owned, and brought the money and put it at the apostles' feet.
Okay, and so looking at this pattern of the early church, how would you describe their practice? What they were? Okay, with one, of course, major difference. It's not a political system, right? It's a voluntary organization you're joining. It's not compulsory, but it is compulsory if you want to be a part of the Christian group. That is what everybody was doing. Although even then, they didn't force you to give up your things. The people were doing it freely. They didn't have to, but if they lied about it, God might kill them, as we see in the next chapter. So you want to be careful about that. Yeah, so it was kind of, I don't know, it was sharing of resources. It was kind of, though, everybody giving all their wealth to the apostles, and the apostles would redistribute it as needed. So, now, here's the fun part. How can we emulate this practice today in our church? And I mean, the obvious answer would be, everyone give me all of your wealth and money, and I will redistribute it as I see fit. So, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any other options? Any other ways we can, maybe not exactly implement this type of thing that the early church had, but use any of the principles? By the way, it is worth pointing out, it's only in Jerusalem that this happened. It's not like Paul went and founded churches and immediately instituted this kind of practice. It was a unique thing to the Jerusalem church. But, yeah.
We're doing the collection for the needy, what do you call it? Second harvest. We're gathering food and stuff up for that. I mean, that's one way we're doing it.
Yeah, so just generally having programs or doing things that help people who need things.
We also have a meal train going for somebody who had a baby.
Okay, so that's a way to help
So it's
people
collecting food from various people who want to donate that and giving it to one of our needy.
Okay.
Who probably has mommy fog.
Yeah.
And doesn't want to cook.
Yeah. So when people have babies, when they have, setbacks, doing a meal train is a very good way to help out. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe not so much of the selling your possessions and giving everything, but they all bought in. So being of one purpose and mindset, they decided as a church that this is how they wanted to do things, and they all worked together and did it. So regardless of whatever you're picking, working together as a church body is something we can emulate.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Carl.
I was just going to say that today we have public institutions that do a lot of the things that these processes and that we read about in Acts were doing. And I think that while that makes it possible to distribute wealth as needed and help as needed to a much larger population, it might also be a discouragement to Christians that, oh, well, the county will take care of that, or the state. I don't have to worry about so-and-so. So it works both ways. In other words, we have a big difference today from then because we have all these public institutions that help people out.
Yeah, so it does make it a little harder. How do we want to put it in practice? And especially the church at this time was united, so all Christians were part of the church, were part of the same denomination, we might say. They're all under the apostles. They're all very excited because the Messiah has just, they just realized about the Messiah. And they have, thousands and thousands of people. So it does make it challenging, what can we do here as a smaller group that, we're not really in a position to have a huge, complicated food distribution system like it becomes obvious that they had, but yet we don't want to not do anything, Before we keep talking about it, the next passage is similar but slightly different. So Acts chapter 5, verses 12 through 16. Could somebody read that, please? This is another not caricature, but I don't know, description of the early church and the kind of things they were doing. Any volunteer? Acts chapter 5, 12 to 18. Thank you.
12 to 16 or 18?
Sorry, to 16.
The apostles performed many signs and wonders among the people, and all the believers used to meet together in Solomon's colonnade. No one else dared join them, even though they were highly regarded by the people. Nevertheless, more and more men and women believed in the Lord and were added to their number. As a result, people brought the sick into the streets and laid them on beds and mats, so that at least Peter's shadow might fall on some of them as he passed by. Crowds gathered also from the towns around Jerusalem, bringing their sick and those tormented by impure spirits, and all of them were healed.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. So what extra stuff do we see here that we could emulate and adjust for our own ministry? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even though they were hardly regarded by the people. I believe it's because, they were, even though they had this nice community they had established, they were rejected by the larger community. And that kind of gets into why they had to band together and help each other out, because they would be ostracized and kind of disfellowshipped once they became Christians. And so you're either kind of 100% in or 100% out. You can't, yeah.
Kind of interesting. The Answer Bible here says, because of the fate of Ananias and his wife, no pretenders or half-hearted followers risked identification with the believers. Luke cannot mean that no one joined the Christian community, since verse 14 indicates that many were coming to Christ.
Yeah. Right, so it doesn't mean they weren't growing, but somehow people who weren't joining it weren't they weren't coming along for the ride, you know. You either joined it or you stayed away from it, because it was kind of an all-encompassing, very demanding thing, and it came with risks. I mean, socially is what I'm thinking of, but you're right, if they knew about Ananias and Sapphira, and I'm sure the public did know about that, you're thinking, I don't want to join this group and maybe get killed by the Lord for not giving all my money or something. All right, well, in any case, the principle here is that people did see how they were doing miracles, how they were all dedicated to each other, how they were sharing their wealth, and that did aid them in their growth, sort of. I mean, it's not like it's the thing that grew them, but it did garner a lot of attention and gave them a good reputation, even though people were a little hesitant to join them because they didn't want to get kicked out. So any thoughts on how, specifically on outreach here, what kind of things do we want to be doing so that people look at us and have a similar reaction? Any thought? And of course, it is different. I mean, they're living in the city, they're preaching in the temple in a public place. But, yeah, Carl.
I was going to say, elsewhere in Scripture, I remember the phrase, see how they love one another.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where that was, but it was, or even if it was in the New Christian Church, but that would be a very important factor, I would think. If the public can see that we love one another in our group and take care of each other and look after each other and do well with each other.
Yeah. One of those microphones is really rattling. Anyway, so yeah, we want people to see that we love each other, we're devoted to each other. I mean, generally, if people see that church is a big, important part of your life and that you like it, you know, that you enjoy going and it's something that gives your life meaning, then if you invite them to it, they're going to be way more interested than if they think it's something you kind of do out of obligation, or you don't really, or they don't know what you think about it. They don't really even know you go. So it is kind of nice for other people to see how much it matters to you. Yep, Glenn?
I was thinking too, in verse 15, it doesn't even say like that the believers were coming to them for help. It was just anyone. So just people who had sick family members or who were sick, they were coming because they knew that this group was doing something good. So it wasn't just the body of believers that was benefiting. It was anyone who was coming. You didn't have to join the group to get the blessings. This group was helping whoever came.
Yeah. Yeah, so we should have some way that we're able to help people, you know. We hate for people to have needs, and we kind of say, well, we can't really help you. At the same time, we can't meet everybody's needs, but if we have some way of helping, it was convenient for the apostles that they had the ability to just heal people, you know. If I had that, I think I would be more than willing to go use my skills out in the parking lot or at the park or wherever. But what are things, you know, we can do that can benefit those around us?
So I know with our school, we don't limit our school to members. Anyone can bring their children to our school. I know of other WELS schools that if you're not a member, they won't enroll you. They'll say no, our school is just for our children. And so I think our school is a huge source of effort and money and blessings and time for everyone in this congregation, that's a way that we're serving the community, regardless of whether you're a member of our church or not.
Yeah, okay, so that is one way, and we shouldn't overlook that. It's definitely the biggest investment we have here, ministry-wise. Just all the time and resources and personnel put towards it. And yeah, it is a way to do this. Any others? Any other thoughts? Now, how about as far as outreach goes? Were you going to say something? Or, yeah, okay.
A lot of kids are coming to our school who were not coming just a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. And a lot of those kids used to attend some other parochial school, but a lot didn't. And now, 5 days a week, minimum, they're sitting in class hearing that Jesus loves them in various ways.
Yeah.
And they would not be hearing that where they used to attend.
Okay, yeah.
And we're
right.
pooling our resources mightily to make sure that even more can
Yeah.
hear.
So it's good in the sense of service, like just it's providing good education, but also it's providing God's word. Yeah. All right, any other thoughts on things we could do that would be of assistance? Yeah.
And I were saying, tell me about your church, and I would say, what kind of community support or what kind of community things are, how are you a part of the community? How would we answer that?
Yeah. I think we'd pretty much just say our school. I can't think of anything else we do that significantly engages the community. I mean, a couple programs a year. Does it? But am I missing something? Yeah.
Our neighbors are all, or many, are going to slide into the lake of fire when their life is over. We do a lot. We can do a lot more than just feed them. We can save their lives and give them Jesus for eternity. That's really why we're here. I used to be a member at our church in New Orleans, and somebody, I think Thrivent, gave us $500 for evangelism. Had a long discussion in church council, what should we do with these $500? And I remember some guys were saying, let's just give everybody free food, and because unbelievers can't come to church for the right reasons anyway, don't get clever about it. Get them in the doors and tell them about Jesus, and let the Spirit do the work. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully the biggest impact we have is not something we're doing corporately, but is everybody, the way you're living your life and the people that you touch. And then, it does happen that somebody has a cousin who needs help or is looking for something, and a lot is done informally to help people. But yeah, we don't really have any other programs but I don't know what kind of programs we could have. We could maybe have one other program, but it would probably need some staff or a very full-time or many hours dedicated volunteer to run it. So yeah, but hopefully the witness that you're giving and so that's why it's so important though we don't have a lot of big formal public outreach, that everybody is getting to know your neighbor, that you are being a good neighbor, that you are looking for ways to serve people, and you are reaching out. So maybe we'll go to the next passage, 1 Peter chapter 3. Yeah, the other thing, of course, we're doing is the Vine. It's starting a second church, but, I don't know that the guy across the street cares that we're doing that, but it is a way to be spreading the gospel. First Peter 3 and 8 through 18, although we're going to focus more on, well, it starts out with lifestyle witnessing, but then talks more about actually sharing your faith verbally with other people, and talks about a little about how that goes. Anybody willing to read 8 through 18? Thank you.
Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because of this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever would love life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech. They must turn from evil and do good. They must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive on their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against you, against your good behavior in Christ, may be ashamed of their slander. For it is better, if it is God's will, to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in the body, but made alive in the spirit.
Okay, and we'll stop there. And so looking at verses, about 8 through 13, in what ways do we see lifestyle witnessing in this passage? What are some things that it's important for us to do that our life is giving a good witness to Christ?
Be nice, love one another. People are going to see how you act, whether you tell them you're a Christian or not, and if they know you are, you're going to be judged for your actions.
Yeah, so watch our actions, and specifically, what actions does he tell us to pursue? Yeah. So, what kind of thing, just maybe look at it this way. What kind of things might you say in front of your neighbor that would make them less likely to be attracted to your faith?
Stay off my lawn.
Stay off my lawn? Yeah, or I'll shoot. Don't make me call the cops. That kind of thing. Yep. Really?
That there was a girls' church that went viral in North Hollywood because the elders came out to a young woman that was sitting on their lawn and said, "You can't sit here."
Yeah, that's happened.
And she said, "There's nothing that says that." So they went inside and got a sign that said "No loitering" and nailed it to the tree she was sitting underneath.
Oh.
And so that's legit.
Yeah. I know of another church where there's some controversy about, they got a lot of skateboarders, and they, on the one hand, they come and ruin their property. On the other hand, they want to be open and friendly. So how aggressive do you shoo the skateboarders is a question that comes up.
Well, as you know, we welded balls on the rail out here just because of that.
To prevent people from
Yeah.
skateboarding,
Yeah, if you ever notice, our guardrail has a little ball
Yeah.
every few feet. So.
On the other hand, we do let people play basketball. But those people, we always stop and talk to them and find out their neighbors, and haven't had anything spray painted or anything when they leave. So, yeah, so that's one thing. What were you saying, Janelle? Yeah.
I was just going to say, the one reason we had an issue with skateboarding is we thought someone would be injured.
Right.
And then we would bear
So it's also-
responsibility.
That's a good
And-
point.
And we were concerned that, there'd be a suit or there'd be something in the paper that would give us a negative story.
You could have painted
about
it
it.
over more benevolent than that. You were worried they'd fall and hurt themselves and no one would find them.
Yeah.
But yes, but also that we would be sued and get negative press. Okay, good. So we don't want to be saying harsh things. Your tongue from... So that's one, get off my property. Other types of things your neighbor... I'm not just here at church, but in your own life. that might give a negative impression. Yeah.
In our travels, my wife and I had the opportunity to attend in all kinds of churches across the country
Yeah.
On a Sunday. And a couple of them, one of them we went to, by the time we got out of the hotel and found the church, we were, a couple minutes late for church. The ushers were closing the doors in front, and we walked up, and he opened it and said, "Well, you just made it." And he was actually kind of scolding us.
Yeah.
Now, we were visitors, that we were running late here because, and he explained that we shut the doors after such and such a time. And
Yeah.
so that I had the feeling that they didn't realize how unwelcoming that was. I don't think they even realized it.
Sure.
And so we really have to be careful what we say and do so that we aren't unconsciously offending.
Yeah, remember that, ushers. If somebody comes in late, don't scold them or anything. Good point.
Then in another church I remember, it was a Wells church. We were visitors, and nobody talked to us. By the time we went out the door after the service, not even the pastor. And we thought, well, we were here to worship, and we did.
Yeah.
But that really taught us a lesson on how we really have to be welcoming to people when they come into our church.
Yeah. All right, good. So just the very basic, being interested in people, talking to them. Can't skip over the importance of that, because we do live in a culture where it's culturally acceptable to just not look at somebody, to just walk right by them as though they don't exist. And we don't want to be that way. We want to acknowledge people, be caring, and just acknowledging their existence is the first part of that. Anything else you see about the lifestyle? I'm trying to tell. Yeah. There are several others you could have pointed out, but let's go on to the second question. How does this passage remind us that our witnessing will not always be outwardly successful? Yes, you could suffer for doing what is right. You expect that might happen. You do everything right. You're serving, even if theoretically that were possible. You were 100% loving, serving the Lord, fearing Him, trusting Him. Do everything that you were doing, every action you took and motivation you had was just pure love and care for your neighbor. You could suffer specifically for that. So we shouldn't think that if we were just loving enough and kind enough and just gave a good enough witness, then we would grow and everyone would come to faith and would just... Now, it doesn't work that way. We want to be the best witnesses we can because we want to be the best Christians we can. But you can suffer for doing what is right. People won't like your invitations. They won't like the gospel that you tell them. They won't be impressed by the good things you do. They'll just scoff and say, well, you should be doing something else, or, you think you're better than everybody. So, your witnessing is not, don't gauge how successful a witness you are based on how people respond. Only gauge your success on how you have witnessed. But then, let's look at 15:16. It talks about verbal witnessing, meaning spoken witnessing out loud, not just the way you live your life, but actually telling people the gospel. And what is the situation Peter tells us to be ready for? Well, it could be. Yeah.
Always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have.
Yeah. So the situation is obviously someone is asking you about the hope that you have. They may not word it that way. They may not say, tell me about the hope you have. But they may ask you about what you believe in some way. And be ready for that.
Professor Paustian at MLC has written a couple of wonderful books called Prepared to Answer.
Yeah.
And each chapter, and they're short, but each chapter answers a question that unbelievers might have about church. Why do we have to worship God? Why do we have to praise God so much? Why is there so much evil in the world? I mean, all of the answers are all, it's terrific writing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a good one for our potential book club this year. So, Prepared to Answer. Great Christmas gift as well. Mark Paustian, Prepared to Answer. 2-volume set. Yes?
It's in the hard things that your faith shows. It's easy to have a good attitude and to be happy and to be upbeat when things are good, but it's when the bad things happen that people will say, like, I would be on my knees if I were going through what you're going through. I would be devastated. I would be angry if why aren't you? And
Yeah.
that's being ready in those moments of trial to be able to share your faith.
Yeah. Okay, good thoughts. I think we'll just have to continue it here next time because we got a lot of people coming in, and Peggy seems like she's got some music ready to go. So we'll pick it up with this verse and maybe keep meditating on it. But in the meantime, just remember you're a witness all the time, whether you're saying something or not, and you never know when the Lord's going to give you that chance to share your faith. So just always be ready and looking for that opportunity.